So tell us why you became a firefighter.
Well, I kind of took a kind of a weird path to it. Growing up, my dad was a athletic trainer. My mom was a teacher. So it was always, the medical side of it was always, I guess, kind of involved. One playing sports and then having kind of like, having a trainer at home. So the medical side of being a firefighter, I was always interested in. My dad was also an EMT. Always heard the stories and thought it was kind of neat. But I really wanted to teach. I went to college to be a teacher, and kind of wandered there for a little bit. Priorities got kind of a little messed up. I'm just kind of being a kid. But coming back around, had a bunch of really good friends that were already firemen. Probably the most attractive thing to me about it was one, the service. What 911 really means and what you're, I just got that. These people are having the worst day of their life, and you're showing up and being the calm. That's something that was really attractive to me. Not to mention the team aspect of it. The fire department's kind of like a big team, with the fire stations kind of being like a locker room, and it just that to me was something that, if you're going to possibly be able to get paid to do something like that, how could you? I mean, it's like not even going to work. So that's probably what the most attractive thing to me about it was.
So talk a little bit more about what you enjoy about the fire service, and what about it turns you on, if you will.
It never stops. When you think about you think about a business, or you think, man, I got to run by there tomorrow, and you think, oh, is it Sunday? Is it closed? I think probably the most amazing thing to me, even me being in the service and doing it, it never stops. 24/7, 365. It's never closed down. There's always something. People don't choose when they have emergencies. People don't choose when they need help right now. And something about the awesomeness of, and I say awesome, that's kind of a firefighter side of it, but the awesomeness of there's no one else to call. When you grow up your whole life, you think, man, if it gets really bad, we'll just call 911. You're now 911. There's no one else for me to call. I like that. So at first, when I first hit the floor and got out of school, it scared me to death. I won't lie to you. But through training and getting confidence and making more runs and experience, what an awesome badge to wear. That you don't need anybody else, and if you are the worst, when the worst is the worst, you're who they're calling. I really embrace that. I like that part of the job.
So firefighters, as you well know, but some of our viewers may not, work 24-hour shifts, and between those 24-hour shifts you have 48 hours off. And so firefighters have a lot of side gigs where they earn extra money on the side. Now, your side gig is you're a firefighter. You work for the Reagan County Fire Department in the EMS. You're the captain there. You're in charge of the emergency medical services. Why did you want to do that as opposed to doing something completely different that just may be separate and apart from the fire service?
You're right about firemen having other jobs. Another one of the things that probably really attracted me to the career was you work 10 days a month. It's 10 24-hour shifts a month, so you're working 240 hours a month any way you chop it up. You're still putting a lot of hours, it's just spread out. And like you said, a lot of guys have roofing companies and plumbing companies, and they're building barns on the side. And there's a lot of firemen that work for other firemen. I liked, something intrigued me about going into a smaller community on my days off. I showed up with nothing. San Angelo trained me. They gave me experience. They gave me the credentials. I remained loyal to San Angelo and made this my primary job. But something about a smaller community and being able to go in to a smaller community and provide, paramedics, being a paramedic, a lot of smaller services have EMTs and different levels of certification, but not everyone has that paramedic certification. So something about going into these smaller communities and being able to give something that they didn't have, provide a service or a need that they didn't have, or was probably that's why I started in Sonora and went to Eden and went to Brady and moved around, and I finally ended up in Reagan County, and they've I've just taken on more and taken on more and taken on more and taken on more, and you're right, now it's 2 full-time careers, and I love it. It kind of seems like there's never a day off, but I really like both jobs to the point where they're both very different. You're doing the same thing, but they're very different. And it's kind of weird. I go from the top of the totem pole in Big Lake, and I leave at 5 a.m. and come and do shift change at 7 a.m. here and go right back to the bottom of the totem pole. But I still like that. I still like it a lot.
Now, pardon the pun here, but do you ever worry about burning out? You spend so much time in a firehouse?
That is a very talked about term in the fire career, burnout, and EMS more than fire. Fire's fun, the adrenaline run, is rushing, there's work to be done, and it's physical. EMS can be taxing. Not all the runs are the big, crazy, some of them are routine. Here in San Angelo, we're easily making 60 runs a day. Big Lake easily 4 to 5 runs a day. So yeah, they mount up really quick. I have not felt burnout. I'm almost 10 years into my career. Knock on wood, that has not come for me yet, and I hope it doesn't. I hope I can maintain the same enthusiasm every day when I show up to work, and the same willingness to show up. I still really like going to work, even on the routine ones. There's something about one thing I've always done is try to make every run like my family or my friend, my grandmother, my grandfather. If you're doing that, nothing really becomes routine. And I'm not saying I do it every time, but I sure try to, and it makes the back and forth not as bad. It makes the run volume not as bad.
You mentioned it being taxing, though, and I think a lot of people think of firefighters as fighting fires when that's really a smaller fraction of the job compared to the emergency medical services that you provide. In what sort of ways is it taxing? Is it physical, or is it emotional? Is it just mental because of all the things you've got to employ in order to help someone?
I'd say it's a combination of all of them. Obviously, it's physical. We talk about, you think about fighting a fire, and taking an axe in, and breaching a door, and carrying the hose in, and 30 minutes of fire, and you're going to be done for a while. And what I mean for a while, I mean you're spent. EMS, it's not as physical. Sometimes moving patients and things can be a physical thing. Probably the mental part of it, to me personally. I'm a firm believer in doing everything as full on, 100%, as much as you can go. Even when you mess up big. I'm a firm believer in that. When you do that, and you are burning the candle at both ends, the mental wear of that is I keep it in a good place. I don't take it home with me. It is what it is. I'm confident what I do. I've had excellent training in all the places I've been. So I don't, I leave it all at the run and I move on. But the mental of always being on the hook, and what I mean by the hook is, if you think about it, like we talked about earlier, no one controls 911. Something's coming in, that constant state of readiness. People joke about the constant state of readiness. Oh, it's exhausting. It is. I'm always thinking, what if this comes in? What if this comes in? I mean, your mind is never stopping there. The mental is probably to me way more taxing than the physical.
You mentioned about being at the top of the totem pole in Big Lake and the bottom in San Angelo. What about your experience in Reagan County do you think has helped you, maybe with perspective and context, in your job in San Angelo?
I always joke and tell people I'm a yes man. Before I even know what it is, I just say yes. I'm a firm believer in that. In San Angelo, for several years, I was, and when I say I'm at the bottom, I haven't promoted yet. I have several certifications, but I have not promoted to a driver yet. And it's by choice. I've had, there for a while it wasn't available to take that test. It has become open, and I decided not to take it. I kind of like being the grunt. And that's probably because on my next job, I'm the exact opposite. Reagan County has provided, what's rare about Reagan County is I'm administrative, but I'm also still a working, cog in the wheel. I'm still on an ambulance. I'm still just the same, but I'm also, someone in charge as a supervisor. I think probably what that's helped is as I lead or institute things in Reagan County that are going to affect our daily procedures, it's interesting to come back the next day and be just pure one of the ones that's now executing the procedures that I was just, it's not the same place, but I copy a lot. I copy a lot of I emulate a lot of the things that San Angelo does. I do it in Reagan County, and it's worked out really well. But I think that's probably the sometimes I'll see things here and I think, man, as being a lower level guy, I think, man, I'd really like to see this. And the very next day I go to Big Lake and I implement it. and see does it work, does it not, you know. So I think that's probably what I think that's helped me. I really do. I think it's helped me in San Angelo to accept you know, leadership from our administration. And I think it's helped me in you know, in Reagan County to accept leadership from the people I supervise. So.
You have held lots of leadership positions, speaking of leadership, in the SAFD. You had the Fill the Boot campaign for Muscular Dystrophy Association. You're the vice president of the Firefighters Association. You've spearheaded San Angelo's hosting of the State Firefighter Olympics. You would seem to be a natural to promote into an officer position. You just sort of addressed that. Do you foresee the day that you will promote, and what's your ultimate goal in the fire service?
Absolutely. I would like to go as high as they'll let me. And there are, being honest with myself, I really thought, you know, we talked about the last test that I decided not to participate in. It was a personal thing. I kind of felt maybe, like I said, I just liked where I was. Now that I've been given, and like I said, my other job, I've been given what kind of change you can affect from a supervisor role. I'd like to go as high as I possibly can, as high as they'll let me. It is, like you said, I'm involved in a lot of different things, and a lot of that is not so much. You know, I don't wear it as one of those. You know, oh yeah, you know, I do this, and I've been. A lot of it's just saying. We talked about it a while ago. It's just saying yes. A lot of it is, I'll do it. I'll take care of it. No problem. I really like that. I really like being depended on, and. You know, as high as I could, being an officer in the fire service, not only you're dependent on the people that you're serving, but the people you're working next to.
So how do you define leadership?
My definition of leadership is lead from where you are. It sounds weird. You know, you've heard from lead from the front, you've heard from lead from the back. I don't think it matters where you're at. I don't think that you know, where your rank is in that system defines what type of leader you're going to be. I think that you know, lead where you are and be willing to serve. You know, I'm lucky enough to work in a service with you know, with about 170 people between two services, and every one of them could be sitting where we're at right now talking. They're all willing to serve. They all show up. You know, they take that oath when they take that job, and it's more than just being paid for it. And I think a leader is someone who, like I said a while ago, before they even know the details of the task at hand, the answer is yes, and we'll figure it out. I really think that is, you know, I think there's a few things you have to possess as a leader. Confidence, not to be. That's a very fine line, you know, with having an ego. I think that sometimes those gets grayed, but they're very different. You know, everybody wants someone to be confident who you know, who's telling them what to do or helping them get to where they want to go. But there's a fine line between being confident and having an ego. So I think, you know, obviously being confident is something you must have. You also must be humble and own some humility. You know, you need to be able to stand up when, you know, when something doesn't go your way, or say that the project does fail and say, man, that's all on me. But then also, when there's credit to be given, I think you stand at the back and you share it with the people in front of you. The last thing is empathy. It's probably one of the biggest things that I use in my life every single day. Work, off work. If you're always putting someone else's needs before your own, if you're always putting the task at hand before your tasks away from that, you know, what you want goes behind everything else, whether it's a project you're working on or something you're doing for someone else. If their feelings come first, if looking at a task and saying, is that the way I would, you know, how would I want it done, you can't ever lose. If you're always doing something on what it looks like to someone else or how they would want it or how you would want it, I don't see how you can ever fail.
So talk about a leader who's had a big influence on how you approach your job and your life.
Man, that list is very long. I'll name a couple. I would probably start with my grandfather. My granddad coached all of his life, mostly at Angelo State. And then he was also a dean at Angelo State. You know, he's from a very small town, Lone, Texas. He is one of the quietest men that I've ever met, but he was one of the most powerful men I've ever met. And when I say powerful, this man's 5'3", played college football, college baseball, college basketball, and he doesn't have to say a word and he can command a room. You know, something about his a very godly man, never wavers. What he says is what he is. His word is his word. When you hear the word old school, this man is old school. That's probably, if I could be half what he is, I'd be doing okay. So that's probably number one. Number two, I'm gonna say my dad. You know, being an athletic trainer, always had 1, 2, 3 jobs. The man was it never stopped, and it was never about himself. It was always about myself and my brother and my mom, or you know, when he was trainer at Angelo State, or it was about who he was working for. It was never about himself. He's still that way to this day. And then third, I'm gonna say my mom. Same thing. I've never seen anyone, I've never heard her say no, other than to me. You know, there's something about it, and I think that's where I get that willingness to serve, is the woman still to this day spreads herself so thin, family, work, friends, and never says a word about it. It does not matter what needs to be done. It does not, and it's never for her own personal gain. So again, if I could be half of what she's doing, I'd be doing okay. So I'm gonna say those three.
You spend a lot of time also volunteering with kids. Why?
Love them. I tell you what, part of it, you know, I always joke and say it's probably a maturity level thing, and I'm right on their level, so it works out. But you know, there is something about children that to me is so honest. You know, as grown-ups, I think we get in this, you know, we go to work, you know, hang out with our friends, or we get this false sense of we're really doing something sometimes. You want to talk about kids being honest. You show up to a elementary school to do a fire prevention, and you start talking, and you say something wrong, and they call you out. I love that. I love it. You know, I say it wrong. You know, there's just something so honest about children that I think can keep us as adults in check. And they just, man, they're just fun. I don't know. I mean, I get to, you know, I get to play. I mean, that's probably why anything that involves going and representing the fire department that involves young people, I will not say no to. So,
You'll be a father later this year. Have you thought about how that's going to change your life?
you know, in so many ways we don't even have enough time in this interview. I'm scared, and I think healthily. I'm scared. I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm having a girl. She's due on Christmas Day, so I cannot wait. I'm almost speechless to the point where there's so many things that I'm thinking about at one time. I've tried to plan, but I've decided I'm just going to let it hit me 100 miles an hour, which everybody says it does anyway. So, but me and my wife are very excited.
Mason, congratulations both on being a new father soon.
Thank you.
And on 20 under 40.
Thank you so much.
Right here, buddy.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Very honored. Thank you.
You bet.